Faith Forged in Fire, where we dive headfirst into the unique challenges and triumphs that comes with being a firefighter, all while exploring what it means to live out a biblical worldview. Join us as we find hope, perseverance, and faith in the midst of the heat and chaos. Welcome to the podcast. All right, well, welcome. This was supposed to be a chief episode. Oh, man.
Our chief couldn't make it. We're having a chief episode without the chief.
Without the chief.
Minus chief.
That's all right. Hey, yeah, he's learning way too quickly, isn't he? So what we want to talk about in this episode is when seconds count what the public doesn't see. Here's the thing. There is a lot of complaints. And this isn't just because of complaints, okay? So I don't mean it that way. But we often hear, like, well, what took so long, right? Or especially on Facebook or whatever, you hear that, well, it took them so long, or they're not even hurrying, or this or that. You know, and generally, I've watched some videos and went, what in the world are they doing? What is taking so long? Or, you know, what are they waiting for? But I thought that it would be a cool episode for those who are listeners who are not firefighters to get a little look behind the scenes of kind of everything that happens to get us to a call, and even kind of once we get there, some of the things. So more, we would say everything that happens before we actually take action, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you've been around enough, Steve, that you can kind of put in on this some.
Sure.
So let's start with this. Let's start with what happens before the truck even moves, right? Yeah. So there's two different worlds, isn't there? Yeah. What are those two worlds, Steve?
I'm just going to say, so for the people out there that don't know, because maybe they just think that every single fire department in America, there's guys sitting around a table just waiting for the alarm to go off.
Right.
That is not the case. And actually, I've learned that a lot in Michigan, that there's a lot more volunteers.
Is it? I think it's 95 or is it not? I can't remember now. I'd have to look. I should have looked. And somebody listening to this will know. So you can comment on YouTube or on your podcast if you can. It is well more than 75%. I think it's higher than that. Are volunteer in the whole nation.
Yeah,
is what I'm getting
which is changing, and that's definitely changing.
Yeah,
you know,
even then, so like Rich's department and his neighboring department, they would say they're not full volunteer anymore, but they only have one guy, so that's not enough for a structure fire or an extrication.
Yeah.
And then they only have them during the day.
Yes. Yeah.
So they're still pretty volunteer.
Pretty volunteer. Yeah. So for the people that don't know, is there are big cities, you know, and we'll say Grand Rapids, just right. we live here. They have stations that there are guys there 24 hours. So there is always someone at the fire station, unless they're on a call or they're shopping or whatever like that. There's someone at the station. So when the tone goes off, they're right next to the fire truck because they have to be. So they're able to get...
Now they may be sleeping if it's nighttime.
But I mean, they're close
But they're still very close, right?
Close enough, you're right. But in general, they're able to get to the fire truck pretty quick just because they're in the station or wherever they're out and about. They're right by the fire truck.
Right.
Listening. So when a call comes in, they can respond relatively quick, right? Depending, you know, on the situation. And then what we run into is that so much more frequently, and it may be very much where you live, is you have the combination or the volunteer department, strictly volunteer department, where in a combination department, it's a combination, just like it in its term of both volunteer and sworn, where you have one or maybe two people there.
Right. So you might get a truck a little quicker, but you're still not going to get the manpower necessarily.
Exactly, because usually on the volunteer side, you have people coming from a location, not at the firehouse, but coming from a location and driving to the firehouse to get on the truck or driving directly to the scene.
Right. So in my instance of where I am here as a firefighter, it's paid on call, but volunteer, right? So here's my normal life is, and here's kind of the difference. We talked about this too. Guys that are full time, when they're off,
yes.
right? They don't, unless it's something major, a major storm or something like that, like Grand Rapids, they might call in people if there's a major storm and all of a sudden every house is out, every company is out taking calls and they're backing up. But in general, when you're done, when you're off, you're off.
Yes.
For volunteers, it's not that way.
No.
When you're around, you're on, and you carry a pager, and you do life, whatever life is. Now, for us, life has changed. We often drive 2 cars to places around town. If we're going somewhere, like maybe just run into the grocery store, I won't. But say somebody invites us over for something at church, and we go to this thing. Generally, we drive 2 cars because that way, if I get a call, I can leave.
Yeah.
And not everybody does that. This is just choice we've made because I want to be able to run as many calls as I can. Life goes on. We've got guys that they might be out walking the dog and the pager goes off. They have to put the dog away. Then they have to get in the car and they have to drive to the station. You have to get up in the middle of the night. You got to get dressed. Right now, you got to go clean all the snow off your car.
Oh, man.
So people don't realize the amount of time it takes just for us to be ready and to get ready to go. So once you get to the station, then you've got to most stations have a combination, and when you're rushing, what happens? You mess up the combination, but you got to get in. Now you got to get all your gear on and then get to the truck, and it's a lot slower process. And when you think, well, that's not a terribly big deal, fire doubles every minute. That's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
That's a big deal.
And the thing though too is you're coming from a location, so if you're coming from a period of you're coming from a distance, you have to worry about traffic. You have to worry about your own safety.
Right.
Getting there
right.
on top of it before you even get to the station.
Right.
You have red lights, you have traffic, you have things going on. So you're trying to get there in a very safe
right.
manner. So that is a big deal.
And we don't in our department, but that's why you see a lot of departments. And I know some of them kind of get made fun of, but that's why a lot of departments, their firefighters will have lights on their personal vehicles. Yep. and they'll run emergency. It's because there's an emergency and they're probably trying to get to the station just to get on a truck.
Yes.
Right? So get out of the way. Treat them like a fire truck. Treat them, they are responding to an emergency. We don't have that. The department I'm on here, we don't do that, but most of us are close enough. But yeah, there's times I have to go through a light every time. And there's times that you just sit there like that light feels like forever because, you're trying to get through to catch a truck. But you've got to understand that so here's another thing, and we'll talk about this, the dispatch side of it. So you call 911, I'm not necessarily going to get paged right away because there's a process. Right? That the 911 operator, first of all, has to determine, is this police? Is this EMS? Is this fire? Once they determine that, then it goes through those channels. They take the information, and then we get dispatched. And depending on the situation, often like an accident or something like that, EMS will get dispatched before we get dispatched. So there can be a delay. Like I have a buddy. Well, I say I have a buddy. We're sitting here. Rich we'll do this because he listens, and we might get toned for mutual aid, right? So the interesting thing is where we are on our department borders another county, and if you don't understand, most counties don't talk well together because they have their own radio system. So when a fire happens in Riches County and they want us in the next county, they have to radio, and then their dispatch will call our dispatch, and then our dispatch will dispatch us. There are times that Rich, because he's listening to the radio, hearing our neighbors say, we want Howard City, Rich will text me and say, go to the station, you're getting a structure fire. I'll be at the station getting my gear on before we even get the call. That's how long it's just a process, right? So when you call and you're like, you got to understand there's a process. Not to mention the amount of times that the address is wrong is crazy, because you might be panicked. You don't know where you are. When you're on the highway driving, pay attention to your markers. I'm terrible at this when I'm driving on a trip. But if you can, pay attention to your mile markers. I mean, we have spent oodles of time over the years. I would say hours and hours over the years driving the highway looking for accidents because they're not where we were told they were. So because they'll say, well, it's northbound, this mile marker. Well, it might be northbound, but it might be 3 more miles that way. Or they say, they tell you where it is, so you get on the highway and you go north and you realize, no, now I got to go all the way back to the south, make a turnaround and come back to where it was. There's a lot of things that people don't understand about just getting the information when we're called and being able to respond to that. So when we start talking about, well, how long does it take? You've got to understand that there's a lot of things before I even know that I have to go. And then it's a matter of, I've got to stop whatever I'm doing. Maybe I've got to put something away. If I'm home by myself, I've got to lock up my house. I've got to turn, if I'm cooking dinner, right, I got to turn off the oven. There's just a lot of things that have to happen before we can even respond. And then it's the matter of making sure you're safe, making sure we've got all our gear, making sure all that before we get on the truck, right?
Do you guys, let me ask you at your department, and because I mentioned this earlier on, do you guys go directly to the scene? Like if you miss the truck?
We have some guys that will go, but we've got enough trucks. We want those trucks there, right? So if you go directly to the scene, and there's a few guys, and it's because they live farther out, so they have their gear with them. Yeah. But otherwise, you got to go to the station and get your gear anyway.
So when you get to the station, and let's just say the engine takes off, do you find another vehicle to take?
Yeah.
Is that normally what you guys do?
That's what you do, yeah. So I'm generally, because of where I live, 9 times out of 10, I'm on the first truck out. I'm on the engine. But this happened last night. We got a call, and I was already in bed. I get up. I'm trying to put my clothes on, right? Whatever happens. Nothing goes right in the dark. And I got there, and we're a quick response department in the first place. We are quicker than most for volunteer because we have a lot of guys that live at 5 minutes or less from the station. So you got to really be on top of it to make first truck out. So I knew right away, I'm probably not making it. I walked through the door. Sure enough, engine's pulling out. The first tanker's pulling out. So I just go to the next tanker, get on the tanker, and off we go.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So it's basically empty, go until the station's empty, and then it kind of depends. Like, if it's me and it's something big, I'm just driving I'm going to get my gear on and drive my car out there if I had to.
So just so the people also understand, and I ask these questions for the people too.
Right.
So now let me ask you, your first one at the station, you get on the truck. How long do you wait for someone else to show up?
Well, that's another thing. So we talk about staffing. I'm going to wait a little bit because if I'm dispatched to PI accident, especially with extrication, if I'm dispatched to a structure fire, what is one guy going to do? Absolutely. So I need somebody. Now, one of the things we do, and it's not like we do it every single time, but we have a group text, and we just communicate in. And when we get a call, a lot of times you'll start hearing at work, not available, on my way. So then you kind of start knowing. The thing is when I'm driving to get to the station and my phone's blowing up, I'm also not taking the time to look at my phone.
Sure.
Now, maybe when I get on the truck, if there's nobody there, then I'll pull the phone out and go, oh, so-and-so's coming. And even they'll say coming, but from this distance, because I know, well, if they're coming from their house, they should be here now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
There are times that you have to run calls by yourself because Nobody's around. Nobody shows up. Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's part of it. You sit there and you wait a little bit because you don't want to leave somebody behind if you don't have to.
Yeah.
Now, if I get a couple, 3 people on the truck, we're going, and then somebody else can come. Yeah. That's the other thing for us is we get used to doing things with less people. A big department, like you mentioned, where they've got several companies and people on full time, they get a structure fire. They're going to have 9, 12, 15 guys like right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
We might have 2 or 3 guys right away. It might take a little while before our next group of guys shows up to the station and brings the next truck. Like last night when we had 3 trucks rolling out of the station, boom, boom, boom. That was unusual. That doesn't, and really it was just because I was a little slower. Otherwise, I'd have been on the engine and we'd have had 2 trucks rolling.
Yeah.
But we are pretty quick when it comes to that stuff. So even in our situation, though, it's slow comparatively, especially then you think about, okay, we have places that are far enough away. It might take us, we responded to a mutual aid call the other day, and it took us 14 minutes to get there.
Yeah, that's long.
You know, and there's areas within our coverage where it could take 10 minutes to get there because we're rural. That's the other thing. When you're rural, you've got a response delays, you've got weather, you've got all of those things. You've got people that won't get out of your way. You know? Yeah. That's the other thing is pay attention when you're driving. If you see an emergency vehicle, get out of the way and let them through. But on the same hand, the weather we've been having.
Yes.
You know, we've had calls. We had a call last night. Yeah, we had, I think it was maybe it was 2 nights ago, the call I was telling you about. But anyway, had a call. I drove. It was, the guy had slid off the highway, rolled his car. Well, obviously it's slippery, right? Snowing like crazy, greasy, slippery. I have not only the responsibility of $600,000 engine, you know, as the driver, I have that responsibility, and I have the responsibility of 4 other lives that are in that with me. I didn't even turn on the lights and run lights and sirens because I want to get there safe. I'm not going to run like crazy, you know? So that's the other thing. If it's a nasty night, we might not be running like crazy.
Can you in a situation like that, can you still drive at a safe speed, but put your lights on so people know that there's an actual emergency you're going to?
We do sometimes, but like there isn't a reason at that point.
Okay.
Here's another thing nobody thinks about. So you turn on your lights, you're driving down the road and it's snowing, right? And you get that Star Wars effect. Mm-hmm. Do that with red lights flashing in those all the time and try to see.
Sure. Wow.
So sometimes you just don't turn the lights on so you can actually see where you're driving.
Yeah.
Because you start putting all those red lights flashing in there.
It's like putting lights on in fog.
Yeah. Yeah.
It reflects back at you.
So there's a lot of stuff. Then we get there. Okay. We get on scene. You're so super happy. Big red truck pulls up. And again, another one of those things. I say, I can't tell you how many times I get out of the truck and what happens. Somebody comes running up to the truck. They're freaking out. They're hollering at me to do this, to do that. They need to do. They teach you, and generally they teach you in Fire Academy. Like Firefighter 101 is don't run. Yeah. You know, it's not safe. That's the thing. Now, sure, there's times where we'll look at something and go, uh-oh, and we'll, you know, but in general, for one thing, we've seen enough emergencies that when you pull up on scene, you can pretty quickly process the level of the emergency, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is then you go, okay, but again, it doesn't do me any good to just rush and go do something. We've got a process. We've got things we have to do. For one thing, a scene size up is you have to do. Every firefighter, when they get off that truck, should be doing a scene size up. Mm-hmm. Now, command is going to do one and tell dispatch so everybody else coming in knows what they're coming into. But every single firefighter needs to take a minute, a second. The scene size up, we've talked about that here on this podcast. For me, it starts at the time the pager goes off. Now, I recently heard somebody say they were trained not to do that because it's not always right. but you can't. So they were trained to just forget about it and wait till you get there.
Yeah,
when you get there, because that's the thing. You start figuring out in your brain, and then you get there, and it's different anyway. Sure. But it's hard to not. The more you do it, the tone of the dispatcher's voice. Are they calm or are they freaking out? Can you hear other people in the background? Because when they key up that mic, you can hear the other dispatchers. You know, you can hear noise. You can hear different things. You know. And just what they're telling you. So you're processing all that. But as soon as you get there, now you have to take it all in and figure out, was this even right? Because, you know, there's been times you're dispatched to nothing and you get there and the world's falling apart. And there's times they tell you the world's falling apart and you get there and it's a little fender bender, you know? So you do have to process. But that's the thing is, again, I'm not going to just grab something and run until I've taken a minute to process what's happening in front of me. And then figured out what do I need? What's the best tool? Where is the fire? Where are we going to park the truck? What hose do I need? What other tools do I need? I mean, there's so many things to think about. For us, if we're going to pull down a long driveway, we're going to stop at the end of the driveway, pull a line off so that we can hook a tanker up at the end of the driveway and pump water down to the fire. Yeah. There's a lot of things people just don't think about. In that it's all about processing the information when you first get there and then making the right decisions, and rushing that is bad. You don't want to rush that. And so people will really get frustrated sometimes. I mean, it doesn't happen. I mean, I'm thankful more often than not because of our time of getting there. We hear people say, man, you showed up so quick. I'm so thankful you got here as quick as you did and you did what you did. But there's always those times where people are hollering at you, and that makes it even worse, right? Because you got somebody freaking out, and you're trying to process the truth of what's going on. Yeah. And so those are all things that people don't think about. Or even we had one. The truck our engine sprung a leak. There was no way to know it. The whole water tank emptied and drained into the drain. So we showed up for a fire. We've got no water.
Oh, no.
We had no way of knowing.
Yeah.
There's things like that. Tools will fail for no apparent reason. You know, a generator just doesn't want to start or whatever. I was out on a brush fire this summer, and our generator on the one truck, it would quit working. So I mean, it was crazy. I would be spraying water, and I mean, it was a big one. I was hot. It was a nasty fire. Spraying as fast as I can, trying to get this down before it gets to some houses. All of a sudden, the pump starts, and it's not doing it. So I'm like, great. So I wind the hose all back up. No more get the hose wound up, and all of a sudden that thing would go, and I'd pull the hose back off, and we'd spray some more. And so it's just there's things like that you can't help that just happen sometimes.
Oh, you get to the station, the fire truck won't start.
We've got an old brush truck that there's times well, I guess we're going to do something else now.
Yeah. Yeah. So someone didn't plug it in, or just there's a mechanical issue or something like that. Yeah. So, it's, you're right. There's unforeseen circumstances that you have to think about as well.
Right.
That come up. So I think, it's in my experiences too with when people, it's usually the people that never have to use the fire department for anything that usually are pretty quick to be critical. Yeah. But the moment that you have your own emergency, when the guys show up, it all kind of makes more sense to those people, and they go, oh.
Well, it's like the people that call and complain because a fire truck woke them up at 2:00 in the morning and was driving past their house too fast and too loud and all that. And we always say, okay, we'll remember that when it's your emergency, right? We'll drive slow. We'll turn the lights off. Like, it all changes when it's your emergency.
Exactly. So, and you obviously never wish that on anybody. You never want anybody to have, a first-time emergency event. But the thing is, be cognizant of that if it doesn't happen to you. And let's be cognizant of the fact that those guys are running to an emergency for something serious that's going on. Right. I know it's not happening to you. Right. But they're running someone. It's happening
to someone.
And so these guys are doing their very best to try to get out there to help out somebody. And you're complaining or you're moaning, and
right,
complaining about it.
Yeah, because your day is messed up.
Yeah, because your little inconvenience is not fair to the situation and everybody that's involved that's going on.
So. Really, the best thing to help us is stay out of the way. That's another. I mean, I get so frustrated when we get on a scene and people are, maybe it's a neighbor or whatever. They mean well. They're trying to help, but they're grabbing hoses or they're doing we've got a system. We know what we're doing for one thing, and you don't have gear. You don't You called us. We're here now. Get out of the way and let us do our job.
Yeah.
Do you
get a lot of that? People.
Especially in the rural areas.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Grabbing equipment.
Yeah. I just the other day we went on this car fire, and we get there, and the guy's trying to put it out with snow. I've already we're there. We're pulling a hose. I had to finally tell him bud, you gotta just get back. Why? I'm trying to get it out. We're here. You called us.
Yeah.
We got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think one of the things that's been hard for me is, and I probably talked about it on here, patience and with others in this way. And you would even probably understand this in just your time around the fire service. We see so much that what one person thinks is a real emergency, to them it is.
Yeah.
But then we show up and we're like, man, they're breathing, they're talking.
Yeah.
Trust me, it could be worse.
Absolutely.
I've even actually told people, look, if you don't see these guys moving quickly, that's a good thing. If we all start scurrying around, things got bad real quick.
Yeah.
Because, I know you think it's bad, but we got it under control, and that's why nobody's in a big rush.
Makes very, very much sense. I've always said that in flying a plane. I said when a turbulence hits, I go, well, stewardesses aren't freaking out, so it must not be so bad.
Exactly.
The moment they start panicking, then
it's bad. Worried, that's kind of the way it is. The other thing people don't think about is just protocols that we have. If we show up on a medical call, the state tells us certain things we can and can't do, and so there's just a lot of things like that people have to think through. It really just boils down to when it's their emergency. I understand. Time feels like it's standing still.
Yeah.
And we're doing the absolute best we can, and we're moving at the quickest speed we probably need to.
And realize too that when these fine young men and women get home, that the pager goes off again. That's another emergency they're running. So it's not hey, I'm done for the night, and the time to get back to bed and sleep all night long. That they could be running right back out again. So be mindful of that. Especially like I said, I've always had a big heart. I've talked about this. I've always had a big heart for the volunteer guys for that very reason. So if you live in a rural area, be even more thankful of your local fire department because, again, coming from home, coming from their families, have to go to work the next day, the whole 9 yards, they're still, and let's be honest, they're not, and Josh can attest to this, that, believe me, they're not making a bunch of money doing this.
No.
They're not getting rich by any means of doing this. They do this because they love you and they care about you and they care about their community. And so be very mindful of that how fortunate you are to have such a great, volunteer department in your area.
Even the paid departments, the paid on-call departments like ours, you're not getting rich.
No.
I've said many times, I probably just about pay my gas bill with what the gas in my car.
Yeah, you're doing it because you love it.
Yeah, you do, and that's the thing is you've got people that are there because they love their community, they enjoy what they're doing, they're trained. I say that one of the things that I talk about often is the highway that we're on runs straight into a big city. You mentioned it, Grand Rapids, right? Those guys are great at their job.
Yes.
They're full timers. They're the second biggest department in the state. They train well. They're good firefighters. If a family gets in a wreck in Grand Rapids or they get in a wreck somewhere up here, they don't care. All they know is I need to be able to respond and give the same care that a Grand Rapids or some other department, right? So as you progress down the highway farther and farther away from the big city, they still need that kind of care, and we've got to train and be prepared to to give that, even though we might not have the same amount of people. There's stuff that we end up doing that some of the bigger departments never really have to do because we kind of have to figure it out on a we almost never have a big enough, full enough crew. We're relying on other departments. That's the other thing is people are like, well, why were there so many departments there? Well, there might have been actually less people on that fire than a big city has on their fire, but we just had to call 3 or 4 departments to get that amount of people because they're at work or they're wherever,
Yeah. Which actually runs into other things there, different crews, different people have to work together and different tactics. And
then you say,
do things your way. And
And then why did it take so long? Well, because I was over in the neighbor's town helping them fight a fire, and now we had a fire in our town, and I had to come all the way back, Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's again, we can't be more thankful of what you guys do. But yeah, you that are the listener to really just understand kind of what happens in this process. That it's not there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that you never see. And it starts from the time that the tone goes off and until that they show up at your doorstep. And so understand that there's many aspects of the call that happens to get to your house. And again, it's not easy. It's not an easy job by any means, and it's very stressful, not just physically but mentally. So just kind of remember that next time, when you think about it. Next time when you get a little frustrated about the firefighters blocking off the street because they got a scene going on there. It's like there's a reason why they're blocking the street off, guys.
Yeah.
It's like they're not doing it to wreck your day. They're doing it because they're looking out for their safety and for the safety of the patients on scene.
Yeah.
So,
and I'll say one of the most encouraging thing you kind of mentioned just when you see them going out. Here's the thing: if you see an ambulance driving down the road, if you see a fire engine driving down the road, whatever it is, just pray for them. Yeah. One of the most encouraging things for me would be when I would get to church on Sunday and somebody would be like, "Hey, Pastor, I saw the engines leaving, and I just prayed for you guys. I didn't know what it was about, but I just prayed for you guys."
That's cool,
and that's encouraging, right? Because we don't know what we're getting into.
Yeah. So. Make sure that you do that next time. I know I've done that. I've actually done that every once in a while when we've driven by and say, guys, I'd say pray for those, for that scene going on. We don't know what's going on there. But make sure you guys say a prayer. But I know I try to do that, as much as I can. But that's a good idea. So, well, I think we're kind of wrapping her up.
Shut her down, don't we? Let's land this thing, Connor.
Shut her down. So, well, you know what? If you have any prayer requests, any concerns, anything you want to talk about, you want to reach out to us, you want to have show ideas, you want to just you want to respond to a previous show, something you want to see, you name it. We have a resource. We have a place where you can go and you can put all that information for us, and I guarantee I read it. But I had to let my right-hand man here, my co-host, kind of let us know. Why don't you let us know, Connor?
Got to go to ffifpodcast@gmail.com.
All right. Well, and when can you go do that? What could you be doing, like you were saying, downstairs?
Well, you can give us a little email at home, in your car, just about anywhere.
He said, he goes, you're doing your homework. You're doing your homework at home. You just wanted to send us an email. It's cute. He just told me downstairs.
Nice.
So now you might not want to do it in your car because obviously you're trying to drive in your car. So you don't want to do that.
If you're in the passenger seat.
If you're in the passenger seat.
There you go.
You make sure you do that. And then also, too, we always want to thank our sponsor.
Yeah, absolutely.
We want to, and Connor, if you want to get the best coffee on planet Earth, where do you go?
You have to go to Red Flannel Coffee Company.
Or redflannelcoffeeco.com.
Go over there, and what is it?
PJ30.
PJ30. You get, what is it, 30% off?
30% off.
30% off your first purchase over there.
No, he changed that. It's just your entire purchase.
Oh, entire purchase. Woo!
Yeah.
30% off.
Yeah.
Your purchase over there. We have some cool swag on there. So if you like the podcast and there's you want something on there that you can show that you're a proud supporter of Faith Forged and Fire podcast, you can go and do that. Plus, you get yourself some great coffee. Also, you can just send hi to Jake. Jake's doing it. It's a nonprofit, by the way. So all the proceeds that come from his coffee sales go to help put AEDs. Actually, I don't know if I told you with that my company is actually working with Jake right now.
Nice. Good.
Something that I have to tell a funny story actually on that real quick. That was hilarious. So that got started some time back where with the company I work for, they want to send coffee out to potential customers, all that kind of stuff. So they knew that I was involved with the podcast with the coffee. So I'd mention it, and finally the marketing company reached out to me and was like, hey, what's Jake's number over there? What's his email? So I gave him the information, right? So, I kind of let it go and figured they would kind of figure that out. Well, finally, it's about a month and a half ago, they actually said, hey, we're going to reach out to Jake now, because they were using the competitor. The ugly three-letter competitor.
Yeah.
No, they were using a competing firefighting company. And see, I love Jake. I'm just trying to be real nice. He's not here. He can't defend himself. But so what's funny is they finally emailed Jake, So I'm thinking, everything's all good, right? I'm literally last week, I'm in a meeting. I'm in Minnesota for my company, and we're at our yearly, it was kind of like our Christmas party kind of thing. And the marketing gal's up there talking. And so she was talking about coffee and that whole thing. And she goes, we're using this one right now, and we're hoping to use. And I said, Red Flannel Coffee. I'm all excited, right? Well, she goes, well, by the way, we reached out to him twice, and he hasn't gotten back to us. And I'm sitting there, and sure enough, I go, what? And I grab my phone, and everybody starts laughing. I'm texting Jake right in the middle, and I go, dude, I'm in a meeting right now, and they told me you have not gotten back. Sure enough, right away, Jake is on it. And he had told me what happened is it went to a spam file.
Oh, yeah.
And
right.
So he didn't know about it. So sure enough, we're in the meeting, and about 20 minutes later, I get a Jake writes me back, but also I get it from the marketing coach. Oh, yeah, Jake just got back to me.
You just got to know the right people to pull the right strings, right?
I mean, and it's everybody's laughing. They see me grab my phone like,
right. Yeah, we're not going for that, man.
So Jake is not working with
us. That is so cool.
Yeah, so I can find out.
It's cool to see. When Jake started this, I know we got to quit here, but when Jake approached me the first time about this, I was like, well, this is really cool. But I kind of felt like, what are we going to give him? I felt like I'm getting everything, right? Because he gives us, basically, for those of you who don't know, is he's a nonprofit. So what he'll do is he donates some finances once in a while, like these chairs. I say Jake, Red Flannel Coffee bought these chairs.
Yeah.
He helps keep the podcast going because we make no money. So anything we buy comes out of our pocket. And so he's done some things to try to raise some money for us. Super cool. But it's always right away, I was kind of like, man, I sure hope we can get to the point where we're helping him too, where we're driving sales for him. So I get super excited, and we get all kinds of emails and pictures of people it is really cool to see fire departments that are like, oh, that's all we serve. That's all we have now is Red Flannel Coffee, or like this. It's really neat to reciprocate that for Red Flannel Coffee and what they've done for us.
And not only that, but if sometimes I know we all have places that we shop or whatever, but if we look at maybe where some of that's going, right? And you're helping out a good cause, right?
Yeah.
So what people don't realize is, for Red Flannel Coffee, they help out, they teach CPR classes, and they donate every year. They donate so many AEDs and buildings, and they've even had some saves.
Yep.
Right? So the thing is when you think about when you're buying Red Flannel Coffee, you're not just buying a good brand of coffee, which it really is, and that's what we drink in our house mostly is Red Flannel Coffee. But you're also helping out where you're saving lives. You're allowing people who cannot afford an AED because they're not cheap.
Yeah.
And you're putting it in a building, and again, you're saving lives on top of it.
It's going in schools and churches and places like that maybe couldn't afford them.
Absolutely. So.
And what a more perfect thing for where our podcast is to be able to help promote that.
Yeah,
so.
Really cool thing. So, but we'll get you out of here. Also, to remember, always find us on your favorite streaming area, your podcast, or whatever area you like to listen to your podcasts on. There's a number of them out there. We're on all of them. So please check it.
Spotify, YouTube.
What other ones? Do you know them? Do you know what other ones?
He's never going to be able to name them all.
Never name them all.
No, pretty much all your favorite podcast platforms.
Pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, wherever you like to listen.
And YouTube, as Connor said.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're somewhere up there.
So
can't find them.
wherever you like to listen, make sure to check us out on there and check out. There's plenty of shows. We've had plenty of episodes, and you can always go back and check out an older episode if there's a subject there that really kind of hits you. So, we thank you so much. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Yep.
Take care.